Right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on wherever you are. Welcome to the February 2020 Waste Management session. Today, we have an exciting presentation from our colleagues in Kenya entitled Waste Management Practices in Viral Load and EID Testing Laboratories in Kenya. So as usual, as we are about to start, kindly register your presence in the chat box. Write your name, surname, as well as your organization in there. As you know, we sometime last year shared a tool that was developed by multiple stakeholders. And this tool is to assist in identifying gaps within and best practices, really creating best practices for waste management processes in viral load and EID for molecular testing labs and associated healthcare facilities in order to provide that starting point for assistance in waste management mitigation strategies. So as we had said, it is really for completion by site managers, safety managers, waste management professionals, environmental protection personnel, and it aids them in really making decisions on how, about how these assessed sites can actually develop and implement practices. So it was developed by ASLM, CDC ILB, the Global Fund in collaboration with the Integrated Diagnostics Consortium. So we are glad that the countries have received this and they've already started implementing the tool. And our colleagues from Kenya today will actually give us an experience in how they have used the tool to assess their needs. Dave, are you there? Yes. So today we have a presenter
Can you hear
from
me?
us. Yes, I can hear you. I'll let Dave present.
Okay, so
introduce the presenter for us.
I am just now getting into the parking deck, and you can hear me now. The rain isn't coming down on the car, so let me get a place to park, and I will go ahead and introduce Kennedy. Give me 1 second here.
So meanwhile, Kennedy, can you share your slide right now?
Okay, I think I'm ready now, Anafi.
Go ahead.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. This is Dave Bressler at the International Laboratory Branch at CDC in Atlanta. We're currently undergoing some really heavy weather, so it's a little bit challenging this morning, but let me go ahead and introduce KK Yatich. KK Kennedy is currently the head of the National Public Health Laboratories Biosafety and Biosecurity program at the Ministry of Health in Kenya. And he, as well as the head of the Chemical, Biological, and Radioactive Nuclear section of the National Disaster Management Unit. He coordinates biosafety and biosecurity activities among PEPFAR-funded local laboratories, laboratory implementing partners in Kenya. He is an International Federation of Biosafety Associations, IFBA Biorisk Management and Biosecurity Certified Professional, and a certified trainer on chemical and biological weapons recognition and countermeasures and biorisk management. Kennedy is a member of the National Biological Weapons Convention Implementation Committee, as well as a member of the Implementation Review Committee for the agreement between the government of the United States of America and the government of the Republic of Kenya concerning cooperation in threat reduction and biological engagement programs in Kenya. He is a member of the American Biological Safety Association and the American Society for Microbiology. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to turn it over now to Kennedy.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. So I think we can start a presentation. As you can see on your screen, this is just an assessment of the waste management practices in viral load and EID testing laboratories in Kenya. So the outline of the presentation is as background on issues of viral load testing. And also I'll take you through how we carry the assessment using the checklist. Again, on the challenges and solutions. And also the results I'll be able to share with you and what we made of the data findings and how we are also using the data findings and also the next steps. And I'll also mention some few recommendations, probably for other countries. So on the quick country context, the background. So we started these activities in 2008. That is the issue of EID and viral load. In one of the testing laboratories in Kemri, HIV laboratory in Kisumu, and at that time, we were using Roche Amplica version 1.5, in which the extraction and purification was purely manual. And though the extraction reagents contained guanidinium dicyanate, or GITC, which is basically a compound that is used to extract and purify DNA. The waste quantities at that time were very low, of course, because of the low sample volume. And so the laboratory was able to handle that using dilution troughs. So due to increased demand, and again, in order to attain and maintain clinically recommended TAT turnaround time, it necessitated the expansion of the EID to other laboratories, but still it was using the Roche Amplica version 1.5. So in 2013, publications emerged on the benefit of the viral load as opposed to a targeted viral load. And so the use of viral load as a best biomarker for assisting treatment failure as opposed to CD4. So this again led to expansion of viral load testing programs to the current 10 testing laboratories across the country, just to ensure that the TAT is met and maintained. So again, with the adoption of the test and treat strategy, the viral load testing program has expanded to other, to be supporting close to 1.5. And this further is the start of the near POC, or point of care testing sites, that again use molecular testing technologies forms, and this translated to a component from this equipment, which basically some are large conventional and they're also near the POC. And so has put a strain on the management of GITC based waste. So on your screen, what you can see is just the viral load testing laboratories networks across the country. So if you look at the map on the left, basically it is showing the location of the testing sites, including the areas which that specific testing site is supporting. So there are a number of, we call them counties, which that specific site supports. And on the map on the right, that really shows exactly the location of the viral load testing laboratories. And you can see it's highlighted in a red cross. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for Nairobi, we couldn't place all the red, but you can see there is a pointer that shows that within Nairobi there are 4 viral load EID testing labs. Now, regarding the viral load testing laboratory capacity, currently we have, as a country, 39 conventional platforms in the 10 viral load EID testing labs. And so the total capacity per year for CAP-CTM, Abbott M2000 and CH800 is 2,039,040. And the current functional capacity for all this equipment is about 1,631,232. And the total utilization of all the equipment translates to 1,581,277. And so the percentage utilization of this equipment is 96.9%. So if you look at the table on the right, basically it shows the numbers of these EID viral load HIV molecular platforms. And so you can see for Roche, CAP-CTM, we have 17. In addition to Abbott M2000, which are 20. And basically we have Roche, CH800, we have 2. So you can see that there are those which are colored down there. That's a Roche and Roche CH800 and CH800. We have 3 and 5 respectively, which are in the process of being installed. So the ones in black are basically the ones that make the 39 conventional platforms. So going back to the left side, we have in blue, which really indicates that the anticipated total capacity per year in future to be 2,800,800. That's by March 2020. So basically the functional capacity is considered at 80% of the total instrument capacity. So quickly, let me introduce the checklist. And the checklist was basically called a tool for viral load, EID molecular waste management, version 2, which came out on November 2019. And it was meant to assist laboratories in identifying gaps and, of course, creating awareness, as Anafi put it, awareness of the basic practices for waste management processes in these EID and viral load testing laboratories. So this is basically the checklist had 6 sections. And the first section was on HIV molecular testing instruments. The second part was on instrument waste. And the third part was on waste management SOPs, policies, and practices at facility level. And fourthly is the section about safety practices. And fifth, the section on the availability of waste management options. And the last section was on the action items, probably to mitigate the findings. So on the right is just a snapshot of the front page of the checklist. So how did we carry out the self-assessment as a country? In fact, just before that, we were lucky as a country to have been part of the process of developing this checklist. At one point, we requested to have a look at that checklist. So when it came to us, we shared with our colleagues, the lab directors in the 10 viral load EID sites, and they were able to input what they feel may capture their issues. So finally, we consolidated the input as a country, and then we did send back to ASLM team. So when it came back as a finalized draft, so that is what then we circulated to the laboratories and also sensitized them on the purpose of the current assessment. And we did follow up using phone calls and also emails, just to make sure that they got copies of those checklists. So, and they went ahead and did the filling, and this was done by the quality assurance officers and also by safety officers within those laboratories. So later, they did send them to us, at the national level, and we went ahead to analyze. And so from what we did, we are also planning to do a site visit to those specific, to some of the laboratories. We have identified 4 of them, and we've selected for the visits just to go and verify the information. So some of the challenges and the solutions that we came across, there was a delay in completing these checklists, and it has a negative impact on the time of analysis. And even as we are speaking now, we've not really analyzed each and every item, but we did manage to pick the specific issues that we felt were affecting us seriously as a country. So because of the delays, as a long-term strategy, probably in future, we need to make sure that this tool is available online through platforms like ODK, so that it could be very easy to fill and also send it back. And this can ensure prompt analysis of the data. And also because of the delays, we did a number of follow-up emails and phone calls to those specific laboratories which didn't submit in time. And again, so there were some of the questions within the checklist that were not really very clear. And I have an example with me for example, section 5, a question on the availability of waste management options, where there is a question that is asking about the access to a medical incinerator. So there are some of the laboratories that didn't have the incinerators. So in that case, they said no. Now, the subsequent questions were tied to that first question. So it was a challenge for those laboratories that didn't have now the incinerator to proceed ahead and fill the next part of the questions. For example, if a facility didn't have the incinerator, the question is asking whether that incinerator is equipped with either a primary chamber or a secondary chamber. You see now, it's very difficult to say no, because already it's not applicable to that question because they don't have one. So probably in future, as a long-term mitigation measure, maybe introduce another column that indicates not applicable in such a scenario. So the other issue was incompleteness of the checklist. And as a long-term strategy, it's important that probably before a checklist is administered, a sensitization is done to the managers and basic officers. And again, the other challenge was, of course, inadequate funding, because some of the delays really took a lot of time. And if we had planned a budget, we would have just done a site visit and support them probably in filling the checklist. So what you can see on the screen of finding out the completeness of the checklist. So you can see that ideally there are supposed to be 6 bars that are complete all the way to 2. 2 means, you can see the key on the top right, 2 means completely filled. Of course, 1 partial, and 0 means it wasn't filled. So if you look at laboratory A, of course, we did use this coding to protect the confidentiality of each and every lab. So if you look at laboratory A, you can see that the sections that is supposed to be highlighted by the green color is missing. So that is a part they didn't fill, okay? And again, for the purple color, which talks of availability of waste management options, you can see again, they didn't fill. So really, this tells you that there was an issue. Probably they didn't understand, which is an issue that probably we need to find out. And again, you can see the other laboratories really did well. They did fill the checklist, B, E, and I, okay? So that tells you there are laboratories which didn't fill, and this is an issue, and we are planning to do a follow-up. Now, the next slide is about what we make out of the data findings, again, starting with the HIV molecular testing instruments. So here, in terms of the volume of testing for each platform, you can see per month. So we have the grand total of 144,069 tests. So of course, we know the number of tests, we know the volume, but now, of course, the workload will directly translate into probably the amount of waste that are generated. And so there is really no quantification of this waste, both liquid and solid waste. And there's one lab that reported that they also have an obsolete equipment. They indicated that is vaccinated, but they had no decontamination and removal procedures. So regarding the instrument waste, we looked at this in terms of relating liquid waste disposal and solid waste disposal. So what happened is that when we looked at the waste disposal, you can see the bars, they're about 5. So we picked those specific parameters, questions that touches on the issues that are affecting the Kenyan labs, a great deal. So for example, the green bar on liquid waste disposal, it shows that 9 out of 10 laboratories pour liquid viral load EID waste down the same. And although they are saying that, again, on the next bar, they have an SOP that they are following when they are doing that. This, again, is something that is subject to going to find out really, if that's true. And again, if you go to the third bar, the yellow one, it indicates that 7 laboratories, okay, are saying that the runoff that is from the sink is directly going into the sewer system. Yeah, you know, that is an issue that really needs to be addressed. And you can see again, the next bar on the mixing of bleach with other potentially infectious liquid waste. So 7 laboratories out of 10 are saying that there is that potential where bleach mixes with other infectious waste. And you see bleach, if you look at the chemistry of GITC, if bleach mixes with GITC, it produces other very serious chemicals. For example, cyanide gas, which is extremely poisonous. So that tells you there's a very serious problem. And the last bar, there is about laboratory things if they're equipped with chemical dilution traps. You can see it's only 2 laboratories who have those traps. The rest don't have. So there is a magnitude of the problem. So regarding the solid waste, basically of concern here is the open site incineration, yeah, which is the number 4. Number 3, the yellow bar. You can see 4 laboratories are saying that they are doing on-site open incineration. And again, if waste that has mixed with bleach are burned in the open with probably cartridges from GITC. Again, there'll be a reaction that would produce the same cyanide gas, which is extremely poisonous and dangerous. So basically, this can tell you that there are issues that needs to be looked at. So for the next slide, which is waste management, SOPs, policies, and practices at the facility level, you can see generally they are not doing bad. They had quite a number of policies for some of the different procedures in the lab. However, if you look at the first bar, it's talking about whether some of the laboratories are aware of some of the national waste management policies. It's only 6 which are saying that are aware of those policies. But at facility level, that's the second bar, 9 laboratories confirmed that really they have those policies, waste management policies at their laboratories. And the other area of concern so much is on the second last bar, where the SOPs used for handling expired viral load EID instruments and reagents are only available in 6 laboratories out of 10. So it would be very interesting to find out how the rest of the laboratories are really managing that. Yeah. So the next slide is about the safety practices in waste management. And safety, of course, is everyone's responsibility. So if you look at the first question, on the availability of biological spill kits and associated SOP, you see quite a number of them confirmed that they do have the spill kit and the SOP. And even the issues of access control, quite a number of laboratories, 8 out of 10, which is 80%, have confirmed that they do have it. So the place that has very critical issues in this case is the last 3. Where the third last bar down there is about the chemical hygiene plan. So only 50% are saying that they do have, and you can imagine how the rest don't have a chemical hygiene plan within their laboratory. So how do they go about managing chemicals? So the other area is how to handle both chemical and biological waste. Whether there is a mechanism or a system, it's only in 4 laboratories where they're saying that they have an organized system to handle both chemical and biological waste. And the last one, of course, where it raises a lot of concern is the documented risk assessment, whether that's been done for personnel. 30%, sorry, which means 3 laboratories have only confirmed conducting the risk assessment, which is documented. So you can imagine the rest 7 have no system of documenting all that. They have no confirmation. So last one regarding availability of waste management options. In this case, again, on average, 6 laboratories out of 10 have confirmed that they are aware of a licensed waste management company currently operating in the country. Again, 6 laboratories out of 10 have an access to a medical waste incinerator, which is equipped with primary and secondary chamber, and also they have the right, the chambers reach the required operational temperatures for an incinerator. And again, 6 laboratories have confirmed that that kind of incinerator is fitted with a scrubber. And only 5 are confirming that the incinerator emissions are monitored and tested. So meaning probably the other laboratory, the other incinerator in this case, because they've confirmed, quite a number have confirmed 6. So the other incinerator, the other facilities don't have incinerators, okay? The other 4 facilities. So, and again, regarding in-country partners that can help with waste management issues, there's only 1 laboratory that has confirmed that they're aware, and the rest have no idea. So, how are we using the findings, the data findings of these So we expect to have site visits and do our follow-ups, just to verify the information that was provided in the checklist. And again, look into strategies of now stratifying ways in which waste can be weighed and quantified by equipment. Of course, Roche had indicated the willingness to support some of the selected countries in doing quantification of waste from these viral load EID sites, platforms. Again, we anticipate to work very closely with the laboratories to develop action items. If you can remember from the previous slides, it was only 3 laboratories that were able to develop action items based on the outcome of, based on the findings on the checklist which they used. So from those action items, come up with plans and also responsible persons for targeted interventions for the site-specific gaps. And then again, based on these findings, we expect to identify cross-cutting gaps to inform development of the country action plan on issues of waste management on viral load EID platforms. And we also expect to have scheduled Zoom calls with the laboratories to review the progress on how they have probably initiated mitigation measures for the identified gaps. So again, going forward, we expect to conduct similar assessments on the existing POC, viral load EID testing sites, and also plan to conduct or have a benchmark visits, probably to other countries. We have in mind South to South collaboration, just to look at issues of how they handle viral load EID waste, whether they have best practices and that kind of thing, and whether we can borrow practices from their facilities. So we also expected to strengthen incinerator capacities in terms of mapping the incinerators to be able to understand the issues of the temperatures, the chamber. You can visit facilities, they have incinerator, but when you go and look at it physically, you'll realize it is just a modified burning chamber that the shape of an incinerator, and it's actually not that. So again, once the incinerator capacities are strengthened, definitely there'll be efforts to do with waste management, river systems, particularly at waste referred service delivery points. We have in mind health facilities. We have gene expert cartridges, of course, for TB. We have a LabCoP for EID, and we also have at the community level, we are aware of the malaria RDDs, which they're using for rapid diagnosis of malaria. And again, going forward, we expect to review the policies and guidelines, both at the national and facility level, to make sure that they capture the issues on waste management for EID and viral load. So the recommendations we have for other countries is that it's really very important to have a system of filling the checklist by independent persons, other than the personnel who work in that specific facility, because there is a chance of bias. There's a risk of bias, particularly for those who work in that laboratory. And again, it's important that in future, it's important to sensitize the lab directors properly and even the managers on how to go about filling the checklist. In addition to that, it's also important to include viral load EID waste management in-country waste management policies and guidelines, based on the fact that these are really very new platforms for HIV molecular EID viral load testing. And it's also very important that we have a proper waste management and also training. And also there's a need to strengthen the issues of laboratory biosafety and biosecurity practices, because these has a direct link in terms of issues of safety. Again, it's important so that out of training, the facilities can initiate specific sustainable measures for viral load EID waste. And again, so that these facilities are able to conduct risk assessments, which can improve services. So it's also very important that countries consider doing what we call routine monitoring of, it's important that these countries have routine waste management and monitoring and evaluation framework or tools, particularly for these new viral load EID platforms. So with those few remarks, I want to acknowledge the Kenya's Ministry of Health through the National Public Health Laboratories, which has made this possible. Also ASLM. I also want to appreciate the managers, the lab directors from all the viral load EID testing labs across the country. And also I want to acknowledge the in-country supporting partners. Of course, I have in mind the BEFA team through UMB, USAID, and also DOD and Walter Reed Project. So finally, I want to say thank you very much, Asante Sana, and I would welcome questions.
Thank you very much, Kennedy and team. Wonderful presentation, quite informing as well. You touched on very important issues. I think one thing that really touched me was we know the test volumes that are in the lab, but we don't know how much exactly of the liquid or solid waste that is being produced. And I think it's an important point. Also, something that touched my nerve was you said those incinerators, are they really incinerators or they are just burning chambers? So these are really questions and food for thought. It's time for questions. I know already there are a couple of questions that are in the chat box, and I think we can dive directly into the questions. The first question came from Hilary. Hilary, are you there? Hilary from Malawi.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Hilary, go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. I would like to know your experience, mainly on average time too, for the laboratories to send you back the checklist. Thank you.
Go ahead and respond
Kennedy.
to that.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead and respond?
Go ahead, Kennedy.
Yeah, it took an average of 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. There you go, Hilary. Just about 2 weeks. I think it's not bad. The next question, I think, came from Jean Baptiste. Jean, are you there?
Yes. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. I was wondering whether there is a chemical that can dilute safely GTC. And again, another question, although I have not posted, does the RDT malaria rapid test contain molecular waste hazards? Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Kennedy, you can respond. Kennedy and Tim, go ahead.
You have something? Actually, we don't have a chemical to dilute with. We understand we can use silver nitrate to dilute, which is too expensive. And as per our country, we can't actually afford that. But that is the chemical that is supposed to precipitate the GTC. Dave can help also.
Nancy, you want to add something?
I was saying maybe Dave can also contribute to that, because I think that's what was mentioned one time in his presentation.
Hello.
Okay, Dave, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Geoffrey, just wait a bit. Let's exhaust this one before we move on. The issue of dilution, Dave Bressel, are you there? You want to make a comment?
Yes, I wanted to comment on that.
Oh, okay. Please go ahead, Geoffrey.
Yes. So when we are doing a spill management, so the best chemical they normally recommend is 70% ethanol when they are using when they are doing the spill management. So I think the best chemical they can use is 70% ethanol. Because now you cannot use sodium hypochlorite and the rest, because we understand the fumes it generates. So it is very dangerous.
I see.
that's
I think important.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Before we move on, I think the previous question, there's also a response in terms of volumes. Kate, are you there? Kate Slimani? All right. Okay, we'll come back to that one as we move on. So the next question, again, I think it's coming from Kate, so I wanted you to respond to both. Kate, are you there? She had said, Kate from CDC Atlanta, the incinerators that were identified with the scrubbers, are they regularly serviced and the scrubbers replaced as recommended? Also, do any of the viral load and EID labs involved in the responses also test for HCV as well as hepatitis B viral load? If so, it will be interesting to know those testing volumes too, as that waste also contains GTC. Did you get that, Kenya team? Or you want me to repeat?
Yeah, if we do.
Okay, so sorry. So I didn't get clearly the question on the scrubbers for the incinerators.
Okay, she's saying the incinerators that were identified with the scrubbers, are they regularly serviced and the scrubbers replaced as recommended? Then the second part was, do any of the viral load EID labs involved also test for HCV and HPV? It will be interesting to know the volumes as well.
Yeah, so for the incinerators, some of the laboratories are saying that the scrubbers are serviced, but you see some of those things, and until really you see the documentation for that, you may not suddenly confirm. But a number of them who have the incinerators have said that the servicing for these scrubbers is done. Now, regarding the other testing, the other tests, there are some of them also who do that. Like I have in mind the National HIV Reference Lab, AMBAS, and also Waltari. And also Kisumu, Kemri Kisumu. Those are some of them who do the test on hepatitis B.
I think we are able to do that. It's only that we are not able to quantify at this moment, but if we go looking, we know some of the labs do that. And again, in terms of what Ken has responded, I think because of our checklist, we're not asking such questions. At least maybe it can ask on servicing of the incinerators. It could have maybe had an answer on that.
Okay, I think that's an important point. On the second part, in terms of volumes,
we've just said we didn't quantify the size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yes, I think we can move on to the next. If you have any question, I think you can just raise a hand and then you can go ahead. All right. Coming back to the issue of volumes, I think whilst we wait for people to catch on, there are some, I think I got one response that claimed that actually we know these volumes. So I don't know whether it's an issue of whether the ability to calculate volumes has not really trickled down to the facility level or what. So we would like to hear from other countries how they have managed. Are you in a position to be able to calculate volumes? Colleagues from Malawi, Swaziland, quite a number of colleagues that are here. Please kindly share your experiences. Hillary. Hello?
Maybe can you repeat? Hello?
So the question was, somebody, unfortunately, she dropped off. She had said, I think some actually do know how to calculate volumes of waste that is produced from these instruments. However, from what we have seen from the Kenya team, I think they could not really quantify this. So I was saying, is that the case in the rest of our countries? Could you share any experiences that you have? In terms of, do we really quantify the waste that is being produced?
The practice.
Was that clear? Yes, go ahead. Okay, so I think Kate is having challenges to connect, but she has sent a message here in the chat box saying, for the Abbott M2000, 20 liters of waste is produced for 192 tests, and for Roche CapCTM, it is about 20 liters for 384 tests. So there is an estimated volume of waste. Then she also goes on to say, for the C4800 and C8800 from Roche, each produce about 1/10 of the liquid waste of the CapCTM. This is just to answer the question from the initial question on in terms of volumes that we have. I know we had a session last week, last month, where we talked about this being a key area. So I guess it's something that we really need to move ahead and see if we are able to calculate this at facility level. In addition, she goes the alinity from the alinity M from Abbott. We are still calculating, but it is similar volumes to the new Roche C4800 and the C8800. Thanks, Kate, for that information. Dev, are you back online?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. Any comments regarding the issue of dilutions, which Nancy pointed out to earlier on?
So I guess I didn't quite hear what the question originally was. Could you restate the question? Maybe I can answer.
The question was, what is the best chemical that can be used to dilute GTC, if any? So colleagues shared a few practices that they use, and somebody mentioned silver nitrate. So we just wanted to know if, from your perspective, if you have any comments.
Well, I think that there have been some methods that have been tried using silver nitrate, but what was found out was that what resulted when the precipitate was formed with guanidinium, that the precipitate that resulted wasn't very stable, and after a while it actually released cyanide gas anyway. So that I would not recommend right now to use silver nitrate. But as far as diluting the guanidinium thiocyanate, we do not know of anything that can be used or should be used. The best things that we're trying to do is explore methods to remediate the issue, get rid of the guanidinium, and that is sort of a slow process to validate and that sort of thing. So we will keep you up to date and informed as we go along with that.
Okay. Thank you, Dev, for sharing that. Also going back to the amount of waste, there's also new information in the chat box, which says plastic waste is also a huge issue, and it depends on the platform that is being used. Note that plastic solid waste also contains GTC, and the amount depends on the platform used. Abbott recommended, I think, to India to use lisoformin 3000, but the quantities and the volumes are still being ascertained. This is interesting information. I don't know whether there are colleagues from the private sector here who may want to comment. Any guys from the manufacturers. All right. Yes.
Hi, Nafi, it's
yes.
Joni from Roche. Sorry.
Hi, Johnny.
I was
Thanks.
muted.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I guess just because I was here, I wanted to comment since you were asking for some private sector comment. I will follow up with our team around this comment from Abbott with our R&D team and see if they're familiar with this as well, and I can come back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Around the LISA forum. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Johnny. Yeah, anyone who may want to comment, I think there's a lot of information in the chat box. And this is really, I think, information obtained from the field. So any additions or comments to this will be very useful. All right, we have about 5 minutes to go, so we can take about 2 or 3 questions if they are there. Yeah, so looks like I think a few people have some questions that are coming through, and one is asking whether we could be able to share the liquid waste matrix for all equipment to help calculate the waste, like the case with Kenya. We pick from the chart that we do have some way of quantifying this. We need to find a way of sharing this. So we shall be getting in touch with Kate and team to see if we are able to share this so that it trickles down to all those that need to use it. So as we round off, I need to give the Kenya team a minute or 2 to make some final remarks in terms of where they are going here and where they need to be as well. Just before that, I receiving another question here. 2 actually from 2 more questions to go, and this is Sabine from Abbott. He or she says 1 run with M2000 consisting of 96 tests is producing about 2 liters. Is that 2 and not 20 liters? Happy to provide more facts. Sabine, if you are online, please go ahead and clarify. Sabine.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go
okay,
ahead.
Good. Yeah, this is Sabine. I think this is a misconception with a 20 liter per run. We will put the facts together and we will send it to you so that you can share with the audience then.
Thank you very much. That would be quite helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then there's a question from Monte. Monte, go ahead.
Hey, I was just asking if there were any other countries planning to use the checklist, and if so, if they could share their results, it'd be much appreciated.
I think that's an important one. There you go. This is a call to all the other countries. Are you, or have you already used the checklist? And if so, are you willing to share the results and then next steps? The last question I think that we'll take will be, so what does David recommend for countries to use for GTC in the meantime? That's a tough one. This is from HOF, 1 to everyone.
Yeah, that is a tough one right now. We're still working on that situation. As I mentioned, we're trying to validate some of the processes that we may have come up with, but right now I don't think that we're in a real good position to say one thing over another. We're hoping to come up with some ideas and be able to release that guidance relatively soon, but those things need to be validated before that occurs.
Can I just add some?
Thank you, Dave. So that was most I had said H of 1. That's most from.
And
go ahead.
I've got Kat here. She's having trouble with her communication, so I'll turn it over to her.
Okay, thank you, Kat, for providing all the information. Yeah.
So I just wanted to reply to the comment from Abbott. The 20 liters is for 2 full plates plus the daily maintenance, and that has been measured in several labs across South Africa and our labs here in ILB. So this is a combination of plasma viral load testing and DBS viral load testing. The DBS viral load testing does produce additional waste because there's additional washes. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate, for the clarification. And indeed, we realize, I think this is a very important subject. So I think we will probably need to have a small piece of maybe documentation and really help each other out there as we move on. So I think just to also come back to the issue of GTC that I think Dev and Moss have mentioned. We know in previous sessions, we also talked about incineration, I think currently being there. But I think the modalities of how this is done really becomes also very important. And also picking from the comment from the Kenya team to say, fine, we have these incinerators, but do we really know whether they're really working as incinerators? And we still have a way to go in this, yeah.
And Anafi, just to add on to that, I think that's an important point to make right now. You know, between the neutralization aspect of mitigating the guanidinium and looking at ways to properly and finally dispose of it. Incineration appears to be one of the better mitigation strategies, but
They
again,
can't hear him.
sorry, the incineration
Dev,
aspect,
they can't hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. The incineration aspect seems to be one of the better ways of dealing with guanidinium, but again, just because of the different types of incinerators that are out there, we are hoping to have some guidance soon on what to look for if you plan on purchasing incinerators for viral load waste disposition. So hopefully we can have some data and some validated data at that and finally some guidance that hopefully will help you guys in picking incinerators and what to look for. That's all.
Thank you, Dev. And indeed, that is a really one of the questions that we have already received. I think people are planning for next funding cycles here. They are thinking, do we really have the right specs that we need in order to do that? Our time really is almost up. So I would like to really give a few seconds to the Kenya team to make some final remarks. Kennedy, Nancy, and Tim. Please go ahead. Are you there?
Hello, Anafi.
Yes, please go ahead. Just in 30 seconds, Kennedy, your last few words.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Okay, we can hear you. That's fine. I think the Kenya team is having a challenge, really. But just let me
Since
just take an opportunity.
we are out of network.
We can hear you. You can go ahead. We can speak. You can speak. Okay. All right. I guess I think they have a challenge, but this is to thank the Kenya team for sharing their practices. I think it's quite informative, and really we can learn from them. Quite a lot of issues that came in here. We continue to discuss, and I think we also hope to see, some movement in the positive direction. And as Dev has mentioned, I think there are quite a lot of field studies that are going out there. And hopefully, I think sooner than later, we're actually having some maybe tentative guidance in terms of moving on. As he has mentioned, I think so far incineration seems to be the better one, but of course it has its own challenges as well. Just a couple of announcements. We again looking forward to our next session towards the end of this month, and it will be on scaling up advanced HIV disease screening as well as treatment. So an interesting session lined up. So we hope you are going to be joining us as well. To country teams, thanks for those that have already submitted their work plans. We are kindly calling on the last few that haven't to please submit so that we can make the final plans together as we move on. Collins, do you have anything to add? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, we got unstable internet. So we apologize for that.
Okay, thank you. We are just closing up now, so maybe just give you 30 seconds to just make final remarks.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you very much, everyone, on behalf of the Kenyan team. And we look forward to further collaborations. And basically, we intend to see how we can provide feedback to the laboratory directors for the 10 EID viral load testing laboratories, and even find resources, probably where we can also sit down with them and have a chat on how best to address the identified gaps.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and wish you a good afternoon and evening, and maybe morning, depending on wherever you are. Thank you, and see you in a couple of weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.